Hey everybody, it is Mica again, and today I want to talk about support classes in MMOs, and this is going to tie into also why I'm looking forward to playing Enchanter in Pantheon, Rise of the Fallen. Because in modern MMOs, we really don't see support as often as we used to, or at least not in the same way. Support classes these days, at least in the games I'm familiar with, are no longer support classes. They're usually healers or DD classes with support-like abilities. But support classes in the original sense were actual support classes, meaning their function in a party was primarily, you guessed it, to support that party. This was often done by things like replenishing mana or improving your party's attack power and defense, increasing resistance to or enhancing various types of attacks, and on the flip side, debuffing your enemies, lowering their attacks or resistances, or flat out controlling them through sleeps and charms. There was very little a support class couldn't do that wasn't beneficial to your party. Currently, in a lot of popular MMOs like Final Fantasy XIV, we just no longer see this. Bard is as close as we have to a support class in Eorzea, but its support functionality is incredibly limited, and it's primarily just a DD class. All it really has is like Faux Requiem, which ups the DPS of the party slightly for a very short amount of time, small crit increases, and a song that replenishes mana. Although these all have very, very lengthy recast times, so they are more a perk of having this job with you than anything. And a lot of bards honestly just ignore these too. I seldom see bards use Faux Requiem at all, and when I heal, I often have to ask for a mana song if I'm running low for any reason. And even then, I only get it if the bard is paying attention to their chat box, or let's face it, even gives two shits. A lot of this is due to the way MMOs have changed, mostly because a genre of games that was created specifically to be played with millions of people from all over the world are becoming more and more like solo or co-op games, with classes mostly just being able to do a little bit of everything, even if they do specialize in a certain role. And battle has changed dramatically with the uptake of speed and flare. We've become so accustomed to chaining abilities with click, 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 that all strategy for the most part has just been completely lost. You don't really think about a battle anymore, at least not as much. It's more about dodging and doing as much DPS as you possibly can in the shortest amount of time, leaving no room for someone who contributes no DPS directly. It's also about pulling as many mobs as you can, reducing most of them to simple DPS sponges with practically no personality. And while it's okay to include these types of enemies in your game, when it's the primary non-boss type of mob, or worse, the primary type of boss, it's cheap, super cheap from a design perspective. But if I don't stop myself, I'm going to start tangenting again. I just enjoy this genre of game so much that I can get super passionate about it. So let's just stop there with the tangent and get right back to support classes before I go too far. Support classes have a huge appeal to many, many people, and you hear a lot of buzz, you hear a lot of excitement about Enchanter and the possibility of Bard and Pantheon. A lot of people want to play them, and I think it's because they're excited more than anything to do something that's not within the holy trinity of tank, healer, and DD, because for the most part, that's all we have in most games. It's something new and shiny to a lot of people that's going to be a crucial element to gameplay, but will it be something that's for everyone? Will everyone who's so eager to play Enchanters or Bard stick with it after all is said and done? In my opinion, I think it's really doubtful. Support jobs in games such as Pantheon are not jobs that solo easy by any means. These are jobs that are very dependent on parties, and parties can be very dependent on them. Even in parties, support takes a lot of attention to detail, and between buffing, debuffing, and pulling, it tends to come with very little downtime. And it's that party dependency that's going to be a huge drag for some people. If we look at Enchanter specifically, it's going to be able to use tricks like Enshire's Faint Whisper to regenerate mana, Shock and Awe to confuse targets, Stop Thief to control enmity, or Mesmerize, which will incapacitate a target. And this makes a list of responsibilities an Enchanter will have already quite lengthy. Enchanter also seems to be throwing damage over time or dot spells into the mix, with abilities like Melisand's Crushing Grip that inflicts magic damage over time, as well as a reduction in magical resistance, or Illusion Graft Harm, which seems to be a dot spell that you can use on a target while it's mesmerized without actually breaking its charm. Not to mention this super mysterious ability called Illusion, which is really vague in its description, and it only states that you can basically learn a variety of illusions to suit a variety of needs. This kinda to me sounds like it's gonna be reminiscent of Blue Mage from Final Fantasy. This could possibly up the responsibilities of an Enchanter even further. And what's going to be a big factor with Enchanter is how many buffs and debuffs we're even going to be able to apply to a single target. Whether any of our abilities are going to be auras versus area of effect and single target, these are all things that are going to increase the tactics Enchanters will need to use. In the descriptors we have, a lot of it stated as simply being target or ally, with some of them saying multiple to indicate an AoE. And this makes me think a lot of it will be a direct application, although we can never be too sure. Especially at this stage of development, I personally don't mind auras, and with a class that relies on charms, it kind of makes sense to have them. I honestly would not mind if Enchanter was completely party dependent. I played Bard in Final Fantasy XI like crazy. I loved Bard, and that was pure support. You literally couldn't do anything on your own as Bard in Final Fantasy XI. Even getting high enough level to join a Dunes party was a pain. But that being said, a good support will also get a good reputation. Not to brag, but like yours truly had. You will literally have to turn down multiple parties a day. Again, not to brag, but like yours truly had to do. However, at the same time, in Final Fantasy XI, you still had the ability to change classes. So if you want to do something like explore the world or harvest in a dangerous area, you could switch to a class that at least had a little bit more survivability. A Bard in the wilds would either have to let a mob flat out kill them or sleep it in zone, which was frankly an incredible pain in the backside. I mean, especially if the zone was really huge and you had all kinds of resists and yada yada yada. Ugh, it got to be a lot. So my assumption is that Enchanter will have at least some survivability mixed in there somewhere, so they wouldn't need a personal guard to do something as simple as tend their garden. And with everything that can be done with illusions and charms, it can make for some incredibly fun gameplay. So in my head, for those of you who played Final Fantasy XI, I'm thinking it's going to be kind of a mashup of Beastmaster with his charms, Blue Mage with illusions, and Bard with his Jedi mind tricks, which frankly would be insane, like super insane and fun as hell. So if you're thinking about playing an Enchanter, or if this is any indication, any support and crowd control class in Pantheon, you are either going to be in for a treat if you're the type of player that likes to be kept on their toes, or in for a shock if you're not used to playing a class that has a lot of different responsibilities in a party. Now again, we're not exactly sure how it's going to play since we haven't gotten our hands on it, but on paper it seems really intense, but in the most fun of ways. The first character I roll, because yes, I will have multiple, I always do, will be an Enchanter, an Elven of course. Mainly because this class seems to be right up my alley. I like being busy in a party, but what do you think? Does it sound too busy or does it sound incredibly fun? What kinds of classes do you like to play? And last but not least, is there anything about Pantheon or the whole gaming universe outside of Pantheon that you want to hear more about? Please let me know below or hit me up on social media, which is also linked below, and let's talk about it. You never know, I may just do a video on it. I want to know what you want to see. And as per the usual, it has been a hoot, and until next time, have fun.